Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yetunde aka YBA, and in today's video we're going to be talking about something that is very close to my heart. We're going to be talking about pregnancy and infant loss awareness. So I'm here throughout this month every Friday to tell you all my experiences with miscarriages. I'm going to delve into other forms of infant losses as well. Now, if you're new here, welcome to my channel. This is where you come to for everything motherhood, friendship, relationships, romance, marriage, sex, and so much more. If you're an OG, you've been a subscriber, you've been following my videos, thank you so much for always returning to watch this. So sit back and let's get right into it. Now, first of all, I just need to apologize. I think in the last 2 months I have missed a couple of postings here on YouTube, and I have been struggling in the background. I have had issues with my laptop. I've had issues with my computer, which is this desktop right here. It's just been really hard for me to edit and even to film. I don't even know, everything just hasn't been working well. My camera, my battery, it was like everything just went kaput at the same time. So it has made creating these videos very difficult for me. But I have, drum roll, first of all, I've just gotten a laptop and I'm so excited because that's also half of the problems I've been having. I still have one or two things, to buy here and there, but with this one single buy, at least I believe it's going to up the ante a little bit. A lot of families go through miscarriages, pregnancy loss, infant loss in different and many ways. This is something that we often don't talk about or discuss. Now, the month of October is the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and in this month what is done is a lot of education, a lot of information about causes, preventive measures, and of course just sharing experiences that surround pregnancies, miscarriages, stillbirths, infant loss, neonatal death, SIDs, and so much more. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you what is done in this month, how you can participate, what are the things that you may not know, some information. Now, throughout this month, I will be dropping a video that is centered around this topic. I'm a mom of 3 and I have experienced miscarriages more than once. The great thing is YouTube has provided a platform where we can all come on here and just talk about our experiences and discuss these things. So this month I am going to be breaking it down into 4 videos. We're going to be talking about today, which is what the month is about, what you can do to participate, how you can just be a part of what is happening in the month of October. I'm also going to share my personal experiences, how many miscarriages I've had, just a little bit of story time so you can get some perspective. We'll also be talking about stuff like, what do you do when you've been told you have a miscarriage? Now, if you notice, I'm going to be doing a lot of videos about miscarriage in particular, and I'm picking miscarriages out of all of the many ways a child can be lost or infant lost because that is what I have experience in. I'll also be sharing tips. You know me, I love tips on what can you do when your loved one is grieving, how can you help them, what are the things not to do, because you will not believe some of the things that people do or say to people who are in mourning or are grieving. Did you know that miscarriages or infant loss or pregnancy loss happens more often than you've ever thought about? Every 1 in 4 pregnancies will not make it to term. And when I say will not make it to term, like it will end abruptly. Out of that amount of pregnancies, 50 to 60% of that amount happens most of the time in the first to early second trimester. Let me say that again. 1 in 4 pregnancies will not be viable. It will not proceed. It will not reach full gestation. There will be no baby. And from that amount, that statistics, that 1 in 4, 50 to 60% of that amount, of that number, always ends in the first to early second trimester. People usually associate these issues with families who are dealing with infertility or fertility issues, but that's not the case. Your regular family, like my family, we deal with it on a regular. So why is it that we don't talk about it? Is it because there isn't enough awareness? Is it because we're not educating ourselves? That is what I'm here to do. Now, why is a whole month dedicated to pregnancy and infant loss awareness, you ask? It is to honor, celebrate, and remember babies that have been lost during pregnancy or even infant loss. Some pregnancies end in as late as the 3rd trimester. Some people are 5 months pregnant, 6 months pregnant, as old as 7 months pregnant. Some people are like 2 weeks from their due date and they lose their babies. Some babies come early, they are neonates, those are like your preemies, and people experience losses that way as well. Some people experience a full pregnancy, they have their babies, they go home, and in the early weeks of the baby's lives, something happens and they experience infant loss. It is a lot to unpack. If you're someone who is going through this, so let me just say this, if it is happening to you, if this is your current reality, and or maybe this has just recently happened to you and you follow this channel, you're a subscriber, this is a good time for you to leave the video just in case it triggers you. Between all of my children, I've had 6 miscarriages. You hear a lot of terms if you go to the hospital. You hear, oh, you had a miscarriage. You hear you had a missed miscarriage. So many causes as well, especially for miscarriages. Sometimes it's nothing that you can control. There's something my doctor explained to me called chromosomal abnormalities. So there's a number of chromosomes you're supposed to have as a human being. So when fertilization happens and you get pregnant, sometimes that particular baby did not get their number of chromosomes, and so automatically the baby will not make it. It's just nothing that you can do, and it's not like you can do anything to make sure the baby has the total number of chromosomes, at least not for that particular pregnancy. You could get help after if it is discovered that that's the issue, but usually even that is not usually investigated until maybe after your 3rd miscarriage, because that is how normal it is. Like if you miscarry once, your doctor is not going to go into panic mode. They're just like, okay, you're good, don't worry, try again, because one time is nothing to worry about. But if you've ever gone through a miscarriage or a loss of a child in any way, you would know that one time is a time too many. There's also stillbirth, which is where maybe something happens while you're pregnant and the baby stops growing and the baby stops breathing, no heartbeat, it's just gone. This can happen at any stage of pregnancy. Sometimes some babies, it is during labor, while labor is going on, when you're having the baby, or when birth is going on. If you maybe had it through another way, that's when they lose the baby. There's some babies who come out and they're not breathing, maybe through the birth canal. So many ways that all of these things can happen. So why do we need to talk about it? We need to talk about these things because there's a lot of, I'm talking for moms now, especially for women, there's a lot of guilt. I am telling you, I can sit here and tell you, oh, don't feel guilty, but I can assure you that guilt is like a huge part of it. There's also a lot of, because people don't have information, some people blame you. Some marriages, some relationships don't survive a child loss. It doesn't survive a pregnancy loss. That's the thing that's going to break that relationship, because blame is being thrown from point A to point B. Some people's careers never survive a child loss. It is something that can exponentially change your life. I talked about the culture of silence because death is something that generally around the world is solemn, is quiet. Even in cultures where you wail and you make a lot of noise, it's almost like they even have a grieving period. So sometimes someone is not done dealing with it, but they're forced to move on, forced to act like they're okay. And so we're also going to be talking about that, the culture of silence, the culture of let's just be tight-lipped about it. Now, as someone who had a first miscarriage after I had my first baby, There's also this thing that happens where if it happens to you and you already have a child, people tend to minimize your experience. They try to, what's it called now? Just like, oh, but you already have a baby. In fact, I'm going to do an entire episode of things not to say and things not to do, and things you actually can do or say to someone who has just experienced loss of a child or pregnancy or a baby, however you want to call it, because sometimes these are some of the things we do. Those are some of the things we're talking about this month. For a lot of people, part of dealing with the process is remembrance. In fact, let me say remembrance and forgetting. Sometimes, because of how we approach these issues, a lot of women and men forget about it. Because maybe that's the condition, you're just supposed to move on. And in that process, you lock trauma into your body, into your mind, into your soul. And somehow, one day, that trauma is going to show up in your life. So what do we do? Let's talk about these things. Let's find resolutions to these issues. Let's not hold on to trauma that can stop us from having an enjoyable life. The remembering part, some people would really, really love to actually be able to remember that child, that baby. Because let me tell you, once you find out you're pregnant, that's your baby. Even if you feel a disconnect, it's something that has happened to you. You cannot unhappen it. I mean, that's bad English, but you get what I mean. You can't, it's not something that, it's not your computer, you do, undo. You can't undo it. It's something that has happened to you. It's part of your life experiences. So it's something you should be able to remember. And remember, even if you're with tears, even if you're emotional, but something that you remember in a healthy manner. And that's what this month is about, healing. How do we heal from it? What are the things you can do? How can you take care of yourself? How can you take care of your loved one if they're going through this process? How to approach someone who has had a miscarriage? How do you approach someone who has had a stillbirth? Your colleague went on maternity leave and returned early because they lost their child. They've lost their child and on their back. And how do you greet them? What do you say to them? What do you not say to them? What can you do? What do people need? So if you go online on any social media and you see anything going on, please try not to, if you don't have anything nice to say, please just pass. There are people who wait for this month and they actually have to live through this month, and it's a process for them. It's a healing time period. There are also people who get triggered this month. So if you're one of those people, like I said at the beginning of this video, this month might be a time to do a social media fast and diet, because it will be out there. Organizations, NGOs, UNICEF, WHO, everybody will be celebrating and bringing awareness and doing remembrance for the babies. As a matter of fact, on October 15th at 7 p.m. all around the world, it is recommended that you light a candle to remember a baby that has been lost. So if you're someone who's lost a baby, that's something you can do, just as a tradition, and just light a candle for a minimum of about 30 minutes, just to remember that child that you have lost, remember the process, how much it hurts, and just so you can feel lighter the following day. There is no one way to deal with these losses. We all grieve in different ways. There is no timeline. As someone who has had miscarriages, I can tell you, I have 3 children who are alive and well. I see them, I hug them, I get to hold them, but I can never forget the ones that I didn't get to meet, the ones that I didn't get to hold, the ones that I lost. It's not something you can ever forget. It goes to the back of your mind. Most days you don't even wake up thinking about it, especially if you've really dealt with it in a healthy way. It's not like it's going to control your life, but it shows up. And we're a makeup of our experiences. If you live long enough and you meet your children's children, who knows the space you might be holding for someone who will be going through this same issue later in your life. Why am I even saying later? You have friends, you have younger ones, you have colleagues. Somebody might be going through it beside you, and because you've experienced it, you are able to hold space for this person, and just help them through it. If that's the only reason why you need to deal with it, I suggest you do, because we can all reach each other and make just this thing really, really better for everyone. I have come to the end of this video. I hope that in any space you find yourself throughout this month, you are going to, whatever you do, you're going to remain respectful of what the theme of this month's celebration is all about. We all have, to a certain degree, one issue or the other we're dealing with. The bad thing, the sad thing is a lot of people don't get support. So see you next week Friday, and again remember to stay kind and respectful.